happening, folks? The sound of that engine means we're back on. We're live. Well, we're not live. I'm sorry. This is pre-recorded. Sorry to mess that up. What's up, guys? Welcome back. It's the Cycleshack Podcast. Today is Sunday, July 15th. It's about almost 8:30 p.m. And I'm a day late. And I was supposed to be recording last night. I didn't because we had some nasty storms roll in, and it was horrible. A lot of thunder and lightning, a lot of blinking. I said, you know what, I don't want to go into the studio and start recording and getting all this equipment on, and I'm not hooked up to an uninterruptible, power source. So I figured, let me not try to damage anything with all these lightning strikes and, lightning. I just decided to just throw in the towel, and I'll give it another shot today. And today was fairly well, except right now it's getting nasty out. It's getting cloudy, and I think I saw some sprinkles before I came into the studio. But it is what it is, man. I try to get this thing over and done with before the rain really comes. So what's happening, folks? Thanks for listening to the Cycleshack Podcast. You know what? This show is made possible and is brought to you by, you guessed it, Anchor.fm. For those of you that haven't tried Anchor.fm, come on, guys, what are you waiting for? It's fast, it's easy, it's the only way to produce or listen to a podcast. Here's what you do. Go to Anchor.fm, go to their webpage, hook up a microphone to your laptop, set up an account, start your own podcast. Talk about whatever you want, flap your gums, make it happen. You can download it on your Android, your iPhone, any one of two platforms, and get some earbuds that have a microphone like you would use for a cell phone, and hit record once you start the account, and you do a podcast right from your cell phone. It's that quick. It's that easy. You could do it while you drive, of course, safely because you got earbuds on, and you just hit record and you drive to your destination. If it's half hour, you created a half hour of content. I don't know. Flip people off on the road or something, and you make a podcast about that. I'm only kidding. So again, Anchor.fm, it's the only way to podcast, the easiest way to podcast. So thank you to Anchor.fm. It's because Anchor.fm, the Cycle Shack, is on multiple platforms today, such as, obviously, Anchor.fm, CastBox, Apple Podcasts, formerly iTunes, Google Play Music, Google Podcast, Overcast, Pocket Casts, Breaker, Radio Public, and now Spotify. Spotify is the newest listening platform as far as listening devices or listening media. As far as video, the Cycleshack Podcast will be available on Facebook, sometimes Facebook Live, but I'll be throwing the show on Facebook, the videos, and also on the Cycleshack Podcast YouTube page. And new to the Cycleshack Podcast will be Twitch. Twitch is a streaming media platform that a lot of gamers use to broadcast video game play, etc. But there's also some talk shows on there, and we're going to be one of them. We are one of them, the Cycleshack Podcast. Go to twitch.com, set up an account, type up the Cycleshack Podcast, or go to talk radio or talk shows, and you'll find the Cycleshack Podcast right on there. So thanks for joining, guys. I'm thanking everybody a million times like I always do. As far as the future with this show, I'm going to keep it going. I'm going to keep looking for ways to make it better, obviously, and improve it. But, long story short, I'm going to basically look for what it would take to maybe get an app, the show's its own app, and also probably its own radio feed off the internet. So you can go to a website, hit play, and you'll get all your episodes of the shows off the website. It'd be nice if this was a network where there could be other people to have shows on and do their thing. But small steps, baby steps. It's been a year and change, a little longer than a year. But yeah, we'll get it going, right? So this week was great weather, phenomenal weather in New York. Excuse me while I take a swig of water, H2O. Little dry. So it was a great week for riding, man, up until the weekend. Well, up until last night, it started getting a little dark and dreary, and then the showers started coming, man. But it was great weather for during the week. Great weather for riding, and it's a shame I didn't get on my bike once, man. I got on my bike last night to go to Buddy's house for something, and then had to leave after about 2 or 3 hours of talking because, the weather came in, and I think one of my friends said, all right, I got to go. The rain's coming. I just got a bug on the phone, a bleep on the phone that the storm's about to hit. So we hightailed it out of there and headed home, split our ways, and I was home in a few minutes. So thankfully I missed all that rain. But it was bad up here last night in the Hudson Valley, man. Well, for those of you that don't know, I didn't say it, but the Cycle Shack is brought to you also by Animal House Studios, home studio of the Cycle Shack Podcast, which is located all the way up in the Hudson Valley. So, interesting story that I picked up that I'm going to share with you guys. And it's about a young man who impressed the heck out of me. And when I saw this, I said, whoa, this is a good article to talk about. So it's by jalopnik.com. All right. You can read along if you want. Go to jalopnik.com. And it's about Travis Pastrana. All right. But basically, before I get into what he did, I want to explain to you who Travis is. According to his Wikipedia, Travis Allen Pastrana, born October 8th, 1983, is an American professional motorsports competitor and stunt performer who has won championships in X Games, gold medals in several events, including Supercross, motocross, freestyle motocross, and rally racing. He runs a show called Nitro Circus and previously competed in the NASCAR Nationwide Series for Roush Fenway Racing and the Global Rallycross Team Championships for Subaru Rally Team USA. All right, so this guy's a motocross superstar, pretty much, with AMA, etc. So, little background on who Travis Pastrana is. So, what he did was he broke some world records. He broke some records that were set actually by Evel Knievel, which impressed the heck out of me. And again, this is from jalopnik.com. The article is by Bradley Brownell. I messed up his name, man, on a little commercial spot that I did, so sorry. Bradley Brownell. And, again, jalopnik.com. It is titled, Travis Pastrana lands 3 incredible jumps to break Evel Knievel's record. Over 400 feet of total jumps have been completed by Travis tonight in Las Vegas. This article, again, was done on the 8th of July. 1 jump over 52 cars, 1 jump over 16 buses, and 1 jump over the fountain in front of Caesar's Palace Hotel and Casino. Breaking 3 of legendary daredevil Evel Knievel's most insane records. This is the author telling it now. So it says, I was there, and it was an astonishing event. It was worthy of the fanfare, the pump, and the circumstance. It's hard to be nervous for a guy who has literally jumped out of a plane without a parachute, but somehow I couldn't help but to get a little secondhand jitters on behalf of Travis today. Again, I'm reading it. The dude wrote the article. I met Travis a couple of times. He's always seemed like such a normal human being, but has a particular knack for pushing the boundaries of the realm of possibilities. First jump, 143 feet over 52 cars. This jump was treated essentially as a warm-up, as it was the shortest of all 3. It was still technically a world record jump, as he cleared 2 more cars than Evel Knievel had done. Sure, the cars were crushed and stacked 3 high, but you can imagine coming up short and landing on a crushed car. Look, I don't care. I can't jump over 1 crushed car, so, this guy jumping over 52 at 143 feet. Salud. You got the record in my book. And, wow. It was 111 degrees, and Pastrana's riding around on an air-cooled V-twin motorcycle. We'll get to what type of motorcycle in a second. Trust me. I'm practically dying from all the heat. I'm in shorts and a t-shirt, but the moment I saw Travis jump on his jump day getup, I knew it was a proper homage to the man, the myth, the legend, Evel Knievel. So he wore the the blue striped stars, white leather suit that Evel Knievel did. So the guy paid his respects to Evel Knievel by wearing his getup in the jump. That's cool. The bike was great. The shoes were great. The cape was great. Everything worked out to its intended effect. Turning Travis from a tall weirdo into a proper showman like Knievel. Wow, I'm just scanning through some pictures while I get the other article prepped here. Second jump, 192 feet over 16 buses, because the first jump was pushed back 20 minutes. We weren't sure we'd be able to watch the bus jump and still make it to the fountain before Travis made the final jump of the night. Wanting an iconic Caesar's Palace photograph, we all moved from the first site to the second an hour early. It was the right move. I watched the second jump from the view screen at the fountain, just like many of the VIPs who had started piling up into the fountain area well before I was. I'll be sure to get you some shots from Nitro Circus professional photographers as soon as they become available. So, he jumped the 16 buses. Evel Knievel's jump was 14 buses. That was in 1975. The first jump, the first jump was done 52 cars. Evel Knievel did 50 cars, and it was done in 1973 also. So, almost 30 years later, right? What else we got here? Jump number 3, 149 feet over the Caesar's Palace fountain. Now, I've been in front of that fountain. That thing is huge. In the end, I'm glad I ended up at Caesar's Palace. The fountain jump wasn't flawless. However, as the pyrotechnics failed to launch, the crew in charge of such explosive equipment said that Travis was going faster than they expected and didn't hit the trigger on time. Once the TV interviews were already completed, they launched the fireworks out of the center of the fountain, and it was a true spectacular. So this guy jumped it so fast, they couldn't even trigger the pyros to do all the, wow. Well, that's cool. And it says here that Travis jumped the fountain with the ramps spread out at a longer distance. Evel Knievel did it at a shorter distance in Las Vegas in 1967. So, let's talk about the motorcycle. Hold on. Oh, I hit an advertisement like a dummy. Let's get back here. We're getting back to the bike that he did it on. If I'm not mistaken, I think Evel Knievel did these jumps on a Harley Davidson, and I hit another advertisement again. That's what I get for taking notes on my phone. Okay, if I can ever get this out. Oh, the comments rolled in. I'm sorry, I took a long pause there. I'm just trying to make sure I get this right without hitting an advertisement. This is horrible. Okay, now it's not loading up. Awesome. I got to get me a secondary monitor here. All right, so while this thing loads up, apparently they were disappointed because, well, as I said, Evel Knievel attempted this all on a Harley Davidson back then. And apparently that could not happen now because Harley Davidson did not want to back this jump. So the Veets win of choice for this, take a guess. Yep, you're right. It was an Indian motorcycle. Harley Davidson wanted no part of it. Triumph Motorcycles didn't want any part of it. So, Indian, of course, jumped on the publicity and I guess sponsored it with Travis, gave him the bike to do it, and he completed the jumps. Broke Evel Knievel's record using an Indian motorcycle. All right. If I can ever get this article to open, we're doing this again. Come on, Ivan, really? You got to be better prepared. So anyway, Indian Motorcycles helped sponsor the event with Travis, gave him the motorcycle, and he did it on an Indian motorcycle. Looks like an Indian Scout, the racing ones that they use. Looks so similar to a motocross bike. But, here we go. All right, so come on. So that's it. Okay, one thing I will say, I really want an Indian painted up like Travis. It's worth noting that Evel's daughter even commented that she was disappointed in Harley Davidson and Triumph, the bike brands her fathers rode, for not stepping up to present this event. She was happy, however, that Indian Motorcycles stepped up to the plate. It was an awesome event, well worth enduring the crazy hot weather. So there you have it. That was commented by Evel Knievel's daughter herself. So again, if you want more information on this article, check out jalopnik.com. The article is by Bradley Brownell. I didn't get that wrong. Bradley Brownell. All right. Let's hope I don't get this other one messed up. So, I wanted to talk about my GPS, man. I went on a ride last weekend, like I mentioned on the previous podcast to this one. This one's what, podcast number 23. And 22, I mentioned I took a ride to Lancaster, Pennsylvania. GPS really pissed me off. I'm disappointed in Harley's GPS. It's got the updated firmware, the software, whatever you want to call it. I checked that. So it is updated. So it's not the excuse of, yeah, we need software. What upset me was that this thing kept, recalculating in places that, granted, there was an area in Pennsylvania that looked like it was a fairly newly built expressway. The GPS didn't even pick up the expressway. It had me riding through nowhere with cross streets cutting across a road that didn't even exist. All you saw was the picture of the motorcycle crossing over everything. And it kept saying recalculating route. So finally I got pissed. The road signs got me to where I was going before I listened to the GPS. So, I mean, to me, that proved to be a little bit dangerous because if I had kept relying on the GPS, I would have been completely screwed. So, Harley Davidson, man, you got to step it up. You got to step it up big time. You got to figure out why the GPS is not, figuring this thing out and just planting it and away I go. This whole recalculating thing is a problem. You better launch another satellite up there or something to pick it up. So, yeah, that's we'll see. I'm going riding next weekend. I'm going to take the same route. So we're going to see if it picks anything up. I don't know. I was probably better off linking up my phone. Another thing that upsets me is I used an original iPhone adapter to hook up to the UPS port of the infotainment system. So it still kept insisting on using my Bluetooth. Now, I guess I could have just shut off my Bluetooth, but, it's an infotainment system. It's supposed to be smarter than that, no? It kept on trying to use my Bluetooth system. It couldn't use my Bluetooth system when it was hardwired to the USB, so it decided not to function right at all. I got no sound coming from my phone onto the infotainment system. So that kind of pissed me off also. So, again, Harley's got to step it up, man. If anybody out there has got any information, TheCycleshackPodcast at gmail.com. Maybe I'm the idiot. Maybe I don't know what I'm doing. But, yeah, that really pissed me off. Making sure that recorder's working. I'd be pretty banged up if it wasn't. So, we're going to try the GPS experience again. I bashed it, but you know what? Rightfully so, man. It could have left me hanging. If I was on a road trip and I was riding across country or something and I was depending on it, I would have had to resort to old-fashioned tactics or whipped out the phone. But, yeah, it's, for you know what? The bottom line is for what you pay, you want that GPS to work when you need it. You know what I mean? So, it, very upsetting to say the least. So, getting back to Indian Motorcycle, hats off for them stepping up to the plate, helping Travis break that world record. If I'm not mistaken, I could have sworn Evel Knievel's son broke those records when Evel Knievel was still alive, his father, Robbie Knievel. I'll double check that. I'm not taking anything away from Travis. He could have been the second person to do it. I don't know. The article doesn't mention that. He could have been the first. I could definitely be wrong, of course. I'll research that. But I could have sworn Robbie Knievel broke all those records. Same way he did them the same way his dad did, but took it a step further and broke them. So, I don't know. Find out. So, Indian Motorcycles is making headways in the news again. Finally, you don't hear about Harley Davidson. This isn't anything negative. You know what? I take this portion of it as, being positive because you know what? Indian Motorcycles got a recall. Now, it wasn't a massive recall like Harley's, and I'm only comparing it to Harley's because, again, everybody spoke about the Harley recall when it happened. But Indian Motorcycles, Indian Motorcycle Company has recalled. This is courtesy of BikersPost.com. And doesn't give an author, but it's BikersPost.com if you want to read along. And it's on their Thursday posting. The Indian Motorcycle Company has recalled only 4,185 of certain 2017 through 2018 Indian Scout 60s, and Scout Bobber motorcycles. Indian says that the anti-lock brake system may have air remaining in the system after the assembly process, which can make the brakes less effective and increase the risk of crash. Riders may be able to detect the problem if the brake lever has a soft feel and brakes seem to be ineffective. Indian will notify owners and dealers. Dealers will bleed the front and rear anti-lock brake system free of charge. The recall is expected to begin July 2018. Owners may contact Indian customer service at 1-877-204-3697. Again, I'm repeating that, 1-877-204-3697. Indian's number for this recall is 1-18-07. Again, that's 1-18-07 is the recall number for this. Or you can check it out at National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. Go to safetycar.gov and check it out. The number on the NHTSA campaign is 18V as in Victor 416000. That's 18V as in Victor 416000. So you know what? Not for nothing. I mean, it's bad in the sense of it's a possible brake failure. But it only affected 4,100 bikes, 4,185. I mean, I say only because that's a small number compared to 100,000 bikes. So hopefully there's no tragedies behind that. And you know what? Indian Motorcycles has been doing good. There's no denying that. You know what I mean? Have they been overall doing better than Harley sales? That's hard to compare because overall numbers. And but Indian Motorcycles definitely stepping it up. I still think it was a big mistake getting rid of Victory. I think Victory deserved its time to be Victory Motorcycles. So again, I really would like to see somebody make an offer to Indian to produce the Victory motorcycle again. Because not for nothing, a lot of the Indian designs were the Victory designs, especially today's. So, who am I? What do I know? Today's main topic. I mentioned this in several podcasts ago. I don't even think it was this series of podcasts. I started this series of podcasts I want to say maybe, I don't even know. This is show number 23. But I had in another series of podcasts up to 40 episodes. Okay. Long story. Not going to get into why I removed those and started fresh again. But I started on this platform with Anchor.fm. So I started the show new as if it was a new show. So we're up to show 23. In my past series, I've discussed this topic, and it's by hotbike.web. It's brought to you by hotbike.web. And it's actually written by the crew at SNS Cycles, or SNS Cycle. It produces the SNS engine. We all know SNS produces replica Harley-Davidson engines, and they specialize in the replica Harley or type Harley engine, racing, etc. So this article is quoted from hotbike.web, brought to you by hotbike.web, written by SNS Cycles, and it is titled, in tech review, Revving in Lower Gear versus Lugging in Higher Gear. Killing it with kindness. What do I mean by that? Well, I'm going to read the article to you. You tell me if you get it. You can send me some email. Leave me comments, whatever you'd like. Go to the Facebook page. When you're learning to drive, and I'm reading the article that they actually wrote, your dad probably told you not to rev the snot out of his car. And that's pretty good advice for your typical passenger car with a slush-o-matic transmission and stock everything. Good advice notwithstanding, back in the day on a hot summer evening, you could hear the bad boys downtown revving the snot out of somebody's car, burning the tires off, and getting chased by the cops. Good times, good times. Fast forward to today and think motorcycles. It appears that an awful lot of people took the old man's warnings to heart. They call it babying, and they think they're doing their engine a favor. However, the tech department here at SNS reports that they have far more calls about engines failing due to lugging than having the snot revved out of them. This situation has undoubtedly been exacerbated by the taller gear ratios and 6-speed transmissions in the later model bikes. The heavier vehicles like baggers, pulling trailers, and trikes, those are more likely to have the problem. Baggers that have heavy two-passenger use, etc. Now again, before I get back to quoting what I'm reading in this article, they're talking about, this is related to most large V-twin engines, okay? We're not talking about smaller bikes. We're not really talking about the sporties. We're talking about maybe a bike bigger than a 1200 and so on in the V-twin genre. So it could be Harley, it could be a Honda, could be a Suzuki. but it's more particularly the larger V-twin touring bikes. Back to the article. Here's why lugging an engine causes problems. If you're traveling in high gear at a fairly low RPM, the BMEP, which stands for brake mean effective pressure, in the combustion chamber is going to be higher than if you shifted to a lower gear and increased the RPM. In the higher gear, you will have to give it a little more gas to make it go. That's because it takes more force to turn the rear wheel, since there are fewer combustion events doing the work. Each combustion event has to release more energy. The resulting temperatures and pressures are proportionately higher. The only good news is that you might get better gas mileage because the combustion is more efficient. The bad news is that if you lug the engine to a sufficiently low RPM, these increased temperatures and pressures will become destructive. It can turn ugly, and it's pretty unlikely you can save enough on gas to pay for a top-end rebuild or worse. I hope you guys got that. I want everybody, if you can, to take a look at this. Go to hotbike.web, okay? And it's the article, it's the tech article. It's the article in the tech section written by S&S Cycle on February 23rd, 2017. Okay, it's in the tech section of hotbikeweb.com. It's titled Revving in Low Gear versus Lugging in High Gear. All right. I'm going to continue. When combustion chamber pressure and temperature gets high enough, knock, detonation, and pre-ignition will occur. If you let that go on for any length of time, it will destroy your pistons. It's pretty easy to tell if an engine has been lugged. The top ring land of the piston gets really hot. Small amounts of fuel detonating beneath it tend to push it up under the valve pockets. The weakest area, in moderate cases, it looks like the piston is smiling. The beginning of the end. In more advanced cases, a piece of the ring land breaks off very quickly, trashes all sorts of things in the combustion chamber, then it's game over. So how do we avoid burning down our engines? It's really simple. Listen to this. I've had this conversation a couple of times with people that tell me, why is it when you ride by me, your bike sounds like you're revving the hell out of it? It's like, high RPM, man. Don't you have a 1600 or an 1800? What gear were you on? I was in fifth. Well, actually, I was in fourth. I went into fourth from fifth just to kind of zoom by. Why would you do that? Your Harley has sixth gears. If you were in fifth, why didn't you just throw it on sixth and give it gas? Listen up. So how do we avoid burning down our engines? It's really simple. Shift down when you need to. If you feel the engine chugging or jerking, or if you can hear the sharp metallic clinging of detonation, don't let it continue. Get off the throttle, shift down to a lower gear, and slowly give it throttle. S&S recommends that you keep your RPM between 2,800 and 3,000 RPM at highway speed. That means if you don't use sixth gear on secondary roads, it's okay. S&S is located in the driftless area of southwest Wisconsin, and the roads there are hilly and curvy. We don't find sixth gear very useful here most of the time. We reserve it for going down hills or for the interstate where we can click into sixth and keep the RPM around 3,000 at cruising speed. I have never, up until this past ride that I went to Lancaster and I hit a nice stretch of level highway that went for miles in the middle of cornfields, okay? I did about 15 miles on sixth gear. that kept me at a steady 80 miles an hour without the engine sounding erratic. I was between the 2,800 and 3,000 RPM, which was a comfortable low RPM range for the engine. You heard it. It performed a lot better. The second I started inclining, well, I dropped it back down to 6 because, again, those RPMs started dragging up. So I brought them down, went down into 5th. And even as I started inclining a little bit more, when I was cutting through a certain hilly range, I felt that 5th gear was, I started dropping to 4. Again, 2,800 to 3,000 RPM range, right? At a higher but moderate RPM. Now, this is when you shift down from that 6th gear or from that 5th gear. Listen up. At a higher gear but moderate RPM, you have the following advantages. Lower gears put less strain on the engine. The work of moving your bike down the road is divided up between a greater number of combustion events, so each event does less work, produces less heat, and combustion chamber pressure is reduced. In addition, the oil pump is able to maintain better oil pressures and scavenge oil from the crankcase a whole lot better. All in all, a happier engine. So wind that bagger, rev that trike. They'll love you for it. So, example, I'm riding in a pack. I'm the last in the pack. I'm on 6th gear. We're cruising down the highway at 75. I'm on 6th gear for whatever reason, but I've got a steady throttle. I'm doing 75, 80 miles an hour. It's level road. We reach a slight incline. Not too bad, but you feel the bike lugging. And I want to check on someone who's riding in the pack who seems like they're riding a little bit slow or having problems shifting, something that could be a danger. And if I'm in the back of the pack, I want to get up there and see what's going on. If I'm on 5th gear, I'm not going to throw it, slam it on 6th, and boom, crank down the throttle. That's what most guys would do. It's not what you're supposed to do. From 6th gear or from 5th gear, come down to 4th. Now, depending on the circumstances, 4th may be a little too much. But from 5th gear, or 6th gear, rather, if you drop it to 5th and crank it, you'd probably have a faster result in getting to that person in the middle of the pack than you would staying on 6th or from 5th cranking it to 6th and throttling it up. I have on many occasions been in 5th gear, cruising in 5th gear at 70 miles an hour because, again, the RPM range is fairly decent. Between, it says in the article 2,800, but again, in 5th gear, it could be between 2,500 and 2,900, which is good. Same deal. In 5th gear, I want to zoom up and catch up to someone to give them a quick signal, then fall back in line. I jump out the line, slap it on 4th gear, boom, I'm gone. The engine's running at a higher RPM, but I'm hustling. I'm moving a lot faster. Okay? And they're saying that possibly would give you a better result than to just open up the throttle on 5th gear or throw it into 6th and opening up the throttle, because it may sound like it may produce a comfortable sound in your ear, but again, that engine just dropped and went real low and has to have a hard time making it up there. Okay? Listen to your engine. Take the advice. Okay? Revving in low gear versus lugging in high gear. You want to rev it in a lower gear. It's easier for your bike. I'm going to read that last paragraph again real quick. Check it out. This is when you rev in the lower gear. At a higher but moderate RPM, you have the following advantages. Lower gears puts less strain on the engine. The work of moving your bike down the road is divided up between a greater number of combustion events, so each event does less work, produces less heat, and combustion chamber pressure is reduced. In addition, the oil pump is able to maintain better oil pressure and scavenge oil from the crankcase. It's one of those words. A whole lot better. All in all, a happy engine. Check out this article, SNS. And you know what? I'm going to take this article and put it on the blog page, on the Cycleshack podcast page, so that all can read it, okay? If I can cut and paste it and it takes you directly to Hot Web, no problem. If not, I'm just going to just cut and paste it and throw it on, and all courtesy will be given to hotbike.web. This is good information for you guys to have. It can mean, you know what, I think my 2008 Harley, I was probably a victim of this because I had upper, high, the heck is wrong with me today? Something happened in my engine that I possibly damaged a lot of overhead components, pistons, piston rings, valves, etc. I had a lot of top end damage, but I had to let them open it up, and the clock was ticking, and cha-ching, cha-ching, to figure out what was wrong. I could have spent anywhere from $800 to maybe $2,500. I'm not going to spend that just for them to look and maybe guess, oh, it's something simple. You blew a piston ring out. We're going to redo them both and blah, blah, blah. Whatever they do to the front cylinder, they got to do to the rear. But anyway, had I maybe followed this, which I kind of think I was, but I could be wrong. Had I followed this, I probably wouldn't have sustained that damage. I don't know. Who knows? But this bike that I'm riding now, my 2016, I've been riding it very carefully. Now, don't get me wrong. The bike's meant to be ridden. I don't baby it too much. I ride it. I ride it hard, but I'm very cautious with it. Okay? I'm not stupid with it, in other words. So, check out the article. Again, it's at hotbikeweb.com. It's written by SNS Cycles. SNS Cycles, they are engine experts, okay? These guys manufacture the replica Harley V-twin engine that is used in a lot of race bikes. And again, the principles and the theories are similar to Harley. They make a lot of stuff for Harley engines. They make they make valves. They make overhead components. They make a piston kit for your Harley V-twin. They also, the problem that Harley was having with the oil pumps and the little plastic pieces inside the guides, all that stuff they have corrections for. And I think their kit's about $800 for that. But yeah, SNS, they're truly experts in their field, and this is a good article to listen to. So I'm going to post this up. How do you get it? You get it at the Cycleshack Podcast on Facebook at the Cycleshack Podcast, and at the Facebook site. There you can click the link to the website, which will take you to the blog page, etc., or the Cycleshack Podcast at gmail.com. I'll be happy to email you the link as well. So it's a great article to look at. Check it out. Yeah. So a lot of people didn't believe me with that. This is kind of case in point. Trying to make sure I don't got nothing else for you guys here. So, at the end of the rough week, which I had a rough week at work, you know, sometimes I find myself struggling for content for the show. Let me stop shaking here. I'm shaking the camera. Sometimes I find myself having a rough time creating content for the show. But this week, I was looking forward to getting behind this mic. I do have a passion for this. I have a passion for, like, talking, flapping at the gums, and, giving people, passing on information that I may know, and I love motorcycles. So the show may take a little bit of a change, and it's not for the worst. It'll always be about motorcycles. It will always be called the Cycle Shack. I don't plan on changing the name, but I might get into different topics because, again, I don't want to corner myself in the motorcycle genre, and that's not a bad thing, guys. Don't take it that way. It's because there's only but so many things you can talk about when it comes to motorcycles. There's not a lot happening sometimes in the winter with motorcycles. I research everything I can to give as much information as I can. I try to attend motorcycle events to maybe set things up. But, I'm a working man. I do this for a hobby, and it is what it is, right? So, again, to not back myself in a corner that I speak just about motorcycles, I'm going to be flapping gums about anything else. Next weekend, I might be broadcasting from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, in a hotel with a couple of guys at the Rain Riders Cigar Night in their, I won't say I won't say weekly because it doesn't happen weekly, but the Rain Riders, I'm sure, will be having a cigar night. I'll be there. I'll be throwing the recorder on that you can see behind me. It's mobile. There it is. I'll be taking that, click and record. Should have done it last time, but I was a little, you know what? After a long ride, sometimes you get a little tired, and I just made the call and said, I'll save it for another time. But I definitely got to record it because we have good times, good laughs. So definitely. So we'll be in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and hopefully I'll do the show from the hotel while they have their little cigar and brandy, and away it goes. So thanks, everybody. That motorcycle means it's time to go. TheCycleshackPodcast at gmail.com. Cycleshack Podcast on Facebook. Check us out, guys. It's been a pleasure. Keep those two wheels down. We'll talk to you next week. See ya.